"We're so proud of you." That's what they said. 2 days before, they kicked me out. I still remember the sound of the microphone feedback as my name echoed across the stadium. Summa cum laude, Nina Braddock. The crowd clapped. My mother stood up first, clapping harder than anyone. My father gave one of those quiet nods, the kind that looks respectful, but never quite reaches the eyes. It should have felt like a moment. It should have felt like the beginning of something. But instead, it felt like I was being wrapped in plastic and shelved, another success story to display next to the photos of my piano recitals and science fair ribbons. They threw a graduation party that evening. The backyard was pristine. String lights, catered hors d'oeuvres, a banner that read, "So proud of our Nina," in gold lettering. I heard someone say it looked like a magazine shoot, and of course that was exactly the point. My mother floated from guest to guest like a first lady on a campaign stop. "This is the girl I was telling you about," she said, grabbing my arm and pulling me into a photo with her golf club friends. "She's going to do big things. She's already gotten offers from everywhere." That wasn't true. I hadn't accepted any offers yet. In fact, I had turned some down. There was this tension in the air, like I was standing at a podium, with the cue cards written for me, and I'd lost the script. I was supposed to say I'd stay nearby, get a job at the firm my dad used to work for, maybe even teach part-time at the community college, settle down with someone appropriate. Instead, I had applied to a graduate program in Chicago, and I hadn't told them. As the party wore on, I found myself tucked near the side of the house, away from the cameras and the laughter. That's when I overheard my mother talking to one of her friends. Her voice was low but crisp, the kind of whisper that's meant to be heard. "She's done what we needed her to do. Now it's time for her to be on her own." It hit me, like a slow fall. Not a slap, not a scream. Just a shift in weight. Like standing on a dock and realizing the boat beneath you has drifted away. I'd always thought this day would be about me, about celebration, about pride. But it wasn't. It was a closing ceremony, a carefully staged finale to a performance I didn't realize I'd been putting on for 22 years. When my mother came over with a glass of champagne, she smiled too widely. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. I raised mine too, but something cold settled in my chest. It wasn't pride I felt. It was distance. And that night, for the first time, I had the sinking feeling that I was no longer a daughter. I was a resume they had already filed away. They said they were proud of me. What they really meant was, I'd served my purpose. The morning after the party, the house was spotless, not a glass out of place. The banner was gone. The fridge had been restocked with Greek yogurt and sparkling water. It was like the celebration had never happened. I came downstairs in a hoodie, still half asleep, expecting coffee and silence, but both of them were already there. My dad sat at the head of the kitchen island, newspaper folded, mug in hand. My mom was making toast, not for anyone, just for rhythm. She didn't look up. "Nina," my dad said, like he was calling roll. I paused, something in his voice. Too calm, too measured. "Sit," my mom added, still not looking at me. I sat. There was a silence so sharp it felt surgical. Then my dad reached into a drawer and pulled out a printout. It was an email from the University of Chicago, congratulating me on my acceptance to their graduate program. I hadn't meant for them to see that. My mom finally turned around. Her face was blank, a mask of someone who'd practiced this moment in the mirror. "You applied behind our backs." "I didn't know I needed permission," I said too quickly. That was the wrong answer. My father set his mug down. Not hard. Just deliberate. "We had a plan, Nina. You were going to take the job at Halverson's, stay local, build a foundation." I swallowed hard. I never agreed to that plan. My mother's mouth twitched. A tiny flash of emotion, rage or heartbreak, I couldn't tell, before she smoothed it out. "And what about him?" she asked, voice dipped in acid. I froze. Him. They knew. I saw the messages, she continued. The photos. Do you think we're idiots? My boyfriend, James, was an artist, worked construction during the week, grew up without money, without polish. But he was kind. He listened. He saw me. He's not the reason I applied, I said. He's the reason you think you don't need us anymore, she snapped. My father stood up slowly, like he needed the height to deliver what came next. You're an adult, Nina. You want to make adult decisions? Fine. Then live with them. I'm not throwing my life away, I said, voice trembling. I'm choosing it. That's your right, he said. And just like that, it was done. You'll have the weekend. To pack, my mother said, now rinsing her knife like she hadn't just severed our relationship. We'll cover your phone for 1 more month. After that, you're on your own. I didn't cry. Not then, not in front of them. But my hands were shaking as I walked back upstairs. Later that night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the books they used to read to me when I was 5. Goodnight Moon. The Giving Tree. I used to think I was the kid in those stories, but maybe I was the tree. They took what they wanted, shade, branches, years of good behavior, and when I had nothing left to offer, they told me to go find myself. They didn't throw me out because I failed them. They threw me out because I stopped performing. The thing no one tells you about sleeping in your car is how loud the world gets when you're finally still. The engine had been off for an hour. My phone was at 12%. The parking lot behind the grocery store buzzed with flickering lights, and the occasional rattle of a stray cart. And I lay there, back seat half reclined, hoodie pulled over my head, diploma tucked inside a duffel bag like it could protect me from the dark. I had nowhere to go, no apartment, no job, no plan. Just a degree, a suitcase, and the echo of my mother's voice in my head. This is what happens when you make impulsive choices. Earlier that day, I packed up my room in silence. My mom folded my laundry without a word. My dad carried out boxes with military precision, not a single hug, not a goodbye, just a polite good luck from the porch. I drove in circles for hours. I thought about messaging James, but I didn't. He had his own life, and I wasn't, about to drag him into the mess I had just become. So I parked behind the Safeway, where there was just enough foot traffic to feel semi-safe, but not enough to attract attention. And there, in the cold, stale air of my own car, I felt it hit me. For the first time, this wasn't temporary. This was real. I tried to scroll job listings on my phone, but my hands were too numb, and they all started to blur together. Entry level, 2 years experience required. Team player, fast-paced, must relocate. One even had the nerve to say 17 or HR, must provide own laptop and desk. I had a 4.0 GPA, a glowing resume, letters of recommendation from professors who called me exceptional. But none of that mattered out here. Not when I couldn't afford a room. Not when I was brushing my teeth with a bottle of water and spitting into a fast food napkin. At one point, a group of college kids walked by laughing, probably on their way to a bar. I ducked, like I was ashamed, like I was something to hide. The irony didn't escape me. My parents had built their entire identity around success, around how well they'd raised me. And now, I was a ghost in the very world they trained me to conquer. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just lay there, listening to the humming light above me, the rustle of a plastic bag, the weight of what it meant to be on your own. Independence sounds noble, until it means parking lot pillows and silence where love used to live. My earliest memories don't smell like cookies or crayons. They smell like hairspray and fresh-pressed cotton. They sound like piano scales, repeated until my knuckles hurt. And they feel like the tight grip of my mother's hand on my shoulder, whispering, "Smile. Everyone's watching." Growing up in the Braddock household meant living inside a showroom. Our living room looked like a Pottery Barn catalog, untouched, pristine. The books on the shelves were color-coded. The couch was for display only. So was I. I wasn't raised. I was curated. Every milestone had a script. At age 6, I won a poetry contest. I didn't even like poetry. My mom made me memorize The Road Not Taken and perform it at the church talent show. I remember the spotlight felt hot on my face. My voice shook, but afterward she kissed my forehead and said, "That's my girl, a real Braddock." It wasn't love, it was approval, and approval had rules. I was allowed to be successful. I was allowed to be smart, but only within the lanes they drew. Only if I wore the right clothes, used the right voice, sat with my legs crossed, and never, ever asked why. When I was 15, I told my mother I wanted to study art. She smiled and said, "You can do that in your free time, after you get your real degree." So I shelved that part of myself, like we shelved everything else that didn't fit the family brand. My boyfriend? The one they used as ammunition against me? James was the first person who ever saw the unscripted version of me. He never asked for a resume, never measured my worth by my GPA. He asked questions like, "What scares you? When was the last time you felt proud without an award?" I didn't have answers. That scared me more than anything, but he listened. And when I told him about the grad school program in Chicago, how it had classes in creative expression and education reform, he said, "That sounds like you, the real you." I knew my parents would never approve. They didn't believe in real. They believed in optics. In their world, success was only valid if it could be printed on a Christmas card. So I kept it quiet. The application, the relationship, all of it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just trying to feel true. Looking back now, it's funny. All those years they spent sculpting me into their perfect daughter. And it worked. Too well. They made someone who looked flawless in photos, but felt like a stranger in her own skin. And the moment I stopped performing, they didn't ask why. They just closed the curtain. I wasn't their child. I was their project, and projects get retired when they go off script. It had been 3 weeks since I left. 3 weeks since I folded my life into the back of a 2006 Toyota and told myself it was temporary. I was living off gas station granola bars and Wi-Fi from coffee shops that didn't check receipts. I had sent out 43 job applications. I had gotten 6 rejection emails. And one, "We'll keep your resume on file." That night, I finally broke. I texted my Aunt Rachel, my mom's younger sister. She was always the cool aunt, wore Converse to family dinners, and once gave me a banned book for Christmas. I kept it short. "Hey, just wondering if you know of any jobs around, or maybe a spare couch? Just a few nights?" 10 minutes later, she replied, "Wait, why would you need that? Your mom said you were traveling, soul-searching or something. So brave of you." I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. Traveling? Soul-searching? I was brushing my teeth in a Target parking lot. I asked what exactly my mom had said. Aunt Rachel sent back a screenshot from the family group chat. There it was, a glossy little paragraph, perfectly curated. "Nina decided to take some time off and explore. She's really stepping into her independence. We're so proud of her bravery. Not many young women have the courage to break from the mold and find themselves." I felt like I couldn't breathe. They didn't just kick me out. They turned my collapse into their virtue, my exile into their parenting success story. It got worse. Photos started showing up on my Facebook, photos from the graduation party, captioned with things like, "So proud of our fearless girl." "She's off to do big things, on her own terms." Old neighbors commented, "What amazing parenting, letting her fly." This is how you raise a strong woman. And just like that, I became a myth, a story they told at church brunches, an inspirational anecdote at wine nights, proof that they were progressive enough to let go, but perfect enough to take credit for who I had become. They didn't want me to succeed. They wanted me gone, but framed in a way that made them look evolved, because in the world they lived in, optics mattered more than outcome. I didn't respond to Aunt Rachel. Not because I didn't want to, but because I realized even she, the cool aunt, had already bought the narrative. I wasn't just alone. I was erased and replaced. And the worst part? They made it look like liberation. They didn't. Just rewrite my story. They published it without my consent and put their names on the cover. It's funny what survival does to your standards. At first, I was looking for studio apartments near the university, then rooms with shared bathrooms, then couches, then anything with a door that locked. That's how I found the co-op. A faded, old house tucked between a record store and a laundromat, with chipped paint and a porch swing that creaked like it held secrets. It wasn't on Zillow. It was on a bulletin board at the cafe I sat outside of every day for Wi-Fi. Room available, sliding scale rent, shared kitchen, quiet energy preferred. There was a phone number, no photos, just hope. I called. A woman answered. Her voice was low, a little raspy, like she'd lived a few lives already. "You can come see it tomorrow," she said. "If it feels right, it's yours." That was how I met Maya. She opened the door barefoot, wearing linen pants and a tank top with paint. Stains. Her gray hair was pulled back in a long braid. Her face had no makeup, just expression. The room was tiny. A twin bed, a desk, one window that stuck halfway when you tried to open it. But there was warmth, not from the radiator, from the silence. "It's not much," she said. "It's perfect," I replied. I moved in the next day. Maya didn't. Ask questions, not at first. She showed me how the fridge was labeled by shelf. She told me which burner sparked weird. And then she handed me a paintbrush and said, "We're redoing the hallway. Pick a color that feels like breathing." I chose sage green. Some nights, we sat on the porch with mugs of peppermint tea and watched the street go quiet. One night, after I told her, not all at once but in fragments, about what happened, she didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "They didn't throw you out, you know. They released you. They just didn't realize you were never theirs to keep." That sentence cracked something open in me. Not rage, not grief. Relief. Because she was right. For 22 years, I had belonged to a script I didn't write. Every choice I made had been about avoiding disapproval, earning applause, but here, in this creaky house with mismatched mugs and chalk drawings on the kitchen walls, there was no audience. No performance. Just space. I started painting again. Small things at first. Postcards, journals. Then murals on scrapwood Maya found in alleyways. I began tutoring local kids in art. They paid me in pocket change and snacks. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't something you could frame in a holiday newsletter, but it was mine, and for the first time that felt like enough. I didn't find a home. I found a mirror, and in it, I wasn't anyone's daughter. I was just me. It started as a favor. A woman from the community center where I tutored asked if I could speak at their youth event. "Just 15 minutes, she said. "Tell your story, something honest. These girls don't need perfect. They need real." Real. Didn't even know what that meant anymore. But I said yes. The event was held in the basement of a church with water-stained ceiling tiles and folding chairs that wobbled. There were maybe 20 people, teens, some parents, and a girl with pink braids who kept chewing her pen. No lights. No stage. Just a mic on a stand and a stack of cookies in the back. When they called my name, I stood up slowly. My palms were sweating. I hadn't written anything down. Just carried a knot in my throat and hoped the truth would be enough. I cleared. "My throat. My name is Nina Braddock. I graduated with honors. My parents threw a party, told everyone they were proud." I paused. 2 days later, they told me to leave. A girl in the back shifted in her seat. They said it was because I kept secrets, because I applied to grad school, because I was dating someone they didn't approve of. But that wasn't the real reason. I looked down at my hands. They loved the version of me that obeyed. That performed. That made them look good. But when I started becoming a person, not a product, they panicked. The room was quiet. No gasps, no applause. Just the weight of words landing where they needed to. So they told a different story. They said I left to find myself, that they supported me, that I was brave. But the truth is, I slept in my car for 3 weeks. I used napkins as towels. I thought about disappearing. The girl with the pink braids stopped chewing her pen. I'm not telling you this to make you sad. I'm telling you because some of you already know what it feels like to be erased and called empowered. You're not crazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not broken. You're just no longer playing a role that makes other people comfortable. I ended there. No big crescendo, just silence. And in that silence, something shifted. A week later, someone uploaded a clip of my talk to TikTok, then Instagram, then Facebook. I didn't even know until James sent me the link. It had over 300,000 views. The comments flooded in. This is what happened to me. They told everyone I was soul-searching too. She said what I couldn't say at 19. And then came the email from my mother. Subject line, enough. No greeting, no closing. Take it down. You've embarrassed us. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I didn't say your name, but if you felt exposed, maybe that says enough. I never heard back. When I finally spoke my truth, they didn't deny it. They just told me to stop talking. Some mornings still catch me off guard, like this one. The light filters in through the cheap blinds, soft, not accusing. The kettle hums on the stove. Outside, someone's dog is barking. A train passes in the distance. The world moves. And for once, it doesn't feel like it's dragging me behind it. I sit at the small wooden table by the window. It's scratched and uneven, but it's mine. So is the chipped mug. So is the silence. It's been 8 months since the speech. 6 since the last time I heard from my parents. 3 since I stopped checking for their names in my inbox. And I'm okay. Not the kind of okay you write on Christmas cards. Not the kind that makes people say, she turned out great. But the kind where you wake up, stretch your arms, and realize your chest doesn't feel like it's caving in anymore. The walls are bare, except for one corner. There, on a narrow shelf, sits my diploma. The same one I clung to in the back seat of my car. The same one they bragged about before cutting me loose. It's dusty now. I haven't touched it in weeks. Next to it is a painting, a self-portrait. I started it in Maya's house and finished it here. It's messy. The colors bleed. My hair's not perfect, but I'm smiling. Not the kind of smile they used to ask for at parties. The real kind. The kind that comes from knowing no one's watching. Sometimes I still hear my mother's voice in my head. Not yelling. That would be easier. It's the calm tone that haunts me. The one she used when she smiled through her disappointment. You're making a mistake, Nina. This isn't who we raised you to be. You'll come back when you realize we were right. But I won't, because what they wanted was a version of me that didn't exist anymore. I didn't need to burn bridges. I just stopped crossing theirs. Now, my days are quiet. I teach art workshops at the community center. I cook badly. I laugh loudly. I forget to fold my laundry. I mess up, and no one scolds me for it. Freedom didn't look like a plane ticket or a viral speech. It looked like this, a window, a breeze, a moment that belongs to no one but me. I used to think I had to earn peace, but maybe peace was never theirs to give, and never mine to ask for.